Let's dive into a little bit of color theory. And the first thing we're going to start with is the 10 Commandments of color theory. Now, I recommend you guys print this out. I printed this out the first time I saw it and put it on my desk, so I always have it as a constant reference and reminder. And the first commandment is know the color wheel, and know it well. You may not know this, but a lot of different colors are associated with different feelings and different ideas. Red is the very intense love and energy type color, and it's often good for things like call to action when we apply it to our designing our interface. Yellow can symbolize joy or intellect and attention, and obviously green is freshness and safety or growth. It's going to be applicable to wellness or health products. And blue, you have your stable, trustworthy blue that can mean a bunch of different things, but it's always related to that blue chip stocks. It's just amazing how color can affect the way people perceive things. And then there's purple, which can mean royalty or wealth and femininity. And there's something to remember. These aren't, laws, but they are good practices. But you're going to say, well, Yahoo's branded purple. They have that purple color. They don't have anything to do with royalty or wealth or femininity. And a lot of times it makes sense to deviate away from certain practices, as long as the reasons for doing that are effective. Maybe you're separating yourself. Maybe it's a quirky type of company. So it really just depends. Now, the second commandment is match it and do not overlook the austerity of analog colors. Well, analog colors are simply colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So the example on this infographic would be, orange, a lighter orange, and an even lighter orange. And I love I'm doing things like this, making very simple color themes with very similar colors. They tend to complement each other, in my opinion. And the third is, if you can't match it, go ahead and clash it with complementary colors. And we know what complementary colors are. We think of red and green always, Christmas, or blue and orange, colors that really clash, but that's why they work together. And the fourth is, if contrast is too intense, then go ahead and split it up. And that's always a good idea if you don't want to be as bold or as, stand outish. The example here is, that red and green's going to be a little too much. So let's use two colors similar to green. We'll do a blue and then a lighter green, and then we'll use red. And the sixth commandment is go triad with the different hues from a greater variety. So kind of pick from different ends of the spectrum as far as the color wheel goes. And this is another practice I like to use, and I often think this can make a logo or whatever you're designing look pretty cool. And the seventh, which is probably the one I use most, is sometimes monochrome is the way to go. And I think monochrome is the way to go a lot of times. I like the idea of using one color and then using various different hues within that color. It creates a very nice, elegant, but subtle image. The eighth commandment is an achromatic scheme may serve best in certain situations. And we've seen a lot of this in the reemergence of the achromatic color schemes as the minimal design fad sort of arose. And often it's a good time to practice it. And achromatic just means no color. And some people would be like, well, isn't white and black a color? Well, technically speaking, black is a color and white is not a color. That's what a physicist would tell you. A kid might say, well, black's a color and white's not, because I have a black crayon, I don't have a white one. And the ninth commandment is know your hues, tints, shades, and tones, and figure out what works where. And this is just going to come with practice and playing around and experimenting with different combinations. And the last and final commandment is RGB, CMYK, and Pantone are not the same. And we're going to be using strictly RGB in this course, and that's because we're designing for digital. And RGB just means red, green, blue. CMYK means cayenne, magenta, yellow, and then K is actually black. And there's a great article over at overnightprints.com that I'll give you right now. And those are the 10 commandments of color theory. Like I said, I have this printed out and I put it above my desk.